When you give yourself permission to create, you're not just making stuff. You're creating peace. You are lowering anxiety. You're opening a door to more happiness in your life. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of Create Today. I've got a question to ask you before we get started. Have you ever had thoughts like this? I'm just going to look at one more post, or I'm going to watch one more video and then I'll stop. And then you think, oh, wait, what's that? Oh, I'm going to look at this one last thing and then I'll stop. Just one more minute, just one more. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, I think we've all been there. You pick up your phone and you think, I'm just going to check my calendar. But instead, oh my gosh, you find yourself on Instagram and suddenly you realize you've been scrolling for 20 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. And when you finally put your phone down, you feel wired and tired. Yep, strangely, you feel both those things at the same time. Your mind will not slow down, but it won't really focus on anything. It's just roaming about, lost in a haze. This is digital fog. And if you're thinking, yep, been there, wandered in that haze, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So before you decide, I think I'll wander to another podcast now or on to another video, please stay with me. We're going to talk about some important stuff today. We're going to talk about how to pull yourself out of the fog and have some more clarity. You're going to feel more productive and you're going to feel more focused. And here's the best part. We're going to have fun. We're going to figure out how to do this and have fun. Because instead of using your fingers to doom scroll, we're going to talk about what you can do with those fingers to create today with them. So let me make something very clear. We're talking about creativity and making stuff like art by painting or drawing or sculpting, or making products by knitting or crocheting or whittling, or even making food by gardening and growing food, or cooking and baking. No matter what your hands will make, there is more going on than just making stuff. And what we talk about today is going to make you think differently about just making something with your creativity. My friend, your hands are a remote control for your nervous system. And today we're not talking about just making art. We're going to explore how our fingertips send our heart, our mind, our body, and our soul a very specific signal that says you are safe and you are grounded and you are here. This is Create Today. I'm Beth Buffington, and today we're chatting about why working with your hands might be the fastest, most underrated way to create peace and happiness in your life in a world that is full of uncertainty and chaos that we just can't control. And this is not a bunch of woo, my friend. It's neuroscience, and science is going to back this up. So let me tell you about what I've been playing with lately. I've discovered how important it is to play with my creativity. So these past few months, I have been having some fun playing with creativity. I'm just doing stuff that's not serious, stuff that's not for a client. It doesn't have a deadline, and it is quite often whimsical and unexpected. And I'm not going to lie, I've been making stuff that doesn't look real good. For example, I've been painting rocks. I've been crocheting tiny bookmarks that are supposed to look like worms, and some of them sort of do. And I've been creating clay things like animals and fruits and veggies. And the creative challenge that's going on in my Going FourWords Creative Clubhouse is just creating pages for other people to coloring pages. But this is all just super fun. And every one of these creative explorations is a different challenge for my hands. But each of these creative events, they take me straight into creative flow, and time just melts away. And when I decide to stop, my brain is humming with energy and renewed focus. Today, I'm encouraging you to play or keep using your hands to create if you're already doing it. But I want you to understand what is happening when you're creating with your hands. So we're going to focus on something underneath the creative fun, because playing creatively is not just a way to waste time or to fill some idle moments when your to-do list is done. There are some really important things happening inside your brain when you're playing with your creativity. And what they are and what they do for you is simply amazing. So let's talk about the science behind creative play. And here's the first piece, and it is a hand-brain connection. You see, back in the 1930s, there was a neurosurgeon named Wilder Penfield, and he mapped out exactly how much of your brain is dedicated to each part of your body. He built something called the cortical homunculus. And I don't even know if I said that right, but it is a distorted body map. And on this map that he made, the hands are enormous. His map shows kind of a hierarchy of what is sending the most information to your brain. And your hands take up a wildly disproportionate amount of your brain's sensory and motor real estate, because your fingertips are some of the most densely wired parts of your entire body. Some research puts it at a few thousand touch receptors packed into each fingertip alone. So when you pick up something with texture, like the grit you feel on sandpaper, the softness of fluffy feathers, the rough grain of untreated wood, you're sending massive amounts of signals to your brain, and it lights up one of the most richly connected parts of your brain. And that signal doesn't stay quiet. It feeds into what neuroscientists call the salience network, which is part of your brain deciding moment to moment what is actually deserving your attention right now. So the important part of this is, in a battle of what gets your attention in the moment, and let's say that battle would be a stressful looping thought versus kneading dough or knitting a sweater or painting rocks. That specific textured sensation, like whatever your hands are doing in the kneading, the knitting, the painting, that, my friend, is the champion in the competition against the looping, stressful thought. Your tactile creativity is a sensory anchor. It pulls you out of your head's anxious thoughts and back into your body, which makes those stressful thoughts feel less stressful. And it does this really fast. So later today, why don't you give it a try? Pick up something near you that has a distinct texture, a really nubby sweater, or the fabric on your couch, or the concrete on a sidewalk. And I just want you to feel it for minutes. Just rub your hands across that texture. Notice how quickly your attention narrows down to whatever it is you're touching that has that friction that's happening on your fingertips. And actually concentrate on what that feels like. Your attention narrows down to what you're touching. That's the hand-brain connection, doing exactly what it was built to do. Make you think about what's happening in this moment. So let's talk a little bit more science behind playing with your creativity, okay? Here's a second piece that science points to, and that is that repetitive motion is like active meditation. There's something specific about repetitive motion, okay? So that's like knit one, purl two, knit one, purl two, or brushstroke, blend, or sanding and pushing back and forth and back and forth. These rhythmic, predictable motions, they do something measurable inside your brain and your body. Researchers at Drexel University had participants in a study spend 45 minutes making art without any instructions and no pressure. Just like make something, ladies and gentlemen, make something. So before the study and after the study, researchers measured the cortisol level of the participants. And cortisol, that is your primary stress hormone. What they discovered was about 75% of participants had lower cortisol at the end of their 45-minute creative play. And here's the thing. It didn't matter if they were good at whatever they were making. So you don't have to be great at whatever it is you decide to play with your creativity. Now, I want to be careful here because that's just one study measuring one 45-minute session. So this doesn't mean that you need to spend 45 minutes crafting something every single day to lower your cortisol. But what it does show is that even one unhurried stretch of making something with your hands can measurably calm your stress response. And that's what's important. And there's a large body of work specifically on knitting and crocheting that proves this point over and over and over again as well. A survey of over 3,500 knitters published in the British Journal of Occupational Therapy found that the majority reported feeling happier after knitting, including people managing depression. And a separate international study on crochet found similar results tied to relaxation and just a sense of accomplishment. You see the repetitive part of doing real work here, right? That's what happens when you knit. That's what happens when you crochet. The repetitive motion has been linked to the same kind of brainwave activity that researchers see during active meditation. Your mind gets quiet, not because you're forcing it to be quiet, but because your hands have been given a rhythm to follow instead of a loop to spiral down in. What is also important, along with the repetitive motion, is the resistance, that friction that your hands are feeling. And this is the part that so many of you tell me over and over and over again in the comments. Crochet got you through chemo. Sanding a bookshelf was the 120-minute stretch when grief didn't feel like it was consuming you. Coloring with your grandkids was one of the first times in months that you just felt happy again. You weren't telling me that you made something cute and that made you feel better. You were sharing with me that when everything felt like too much, you found a way back from grief or stress or anxiety when you just played with your creativity without expectations of a great finished something. And that's not a small thing. That's the whole point of this episode. So stick with me, my friend, for more tactile, mind-blowing information. And here's one more important piece of science that's connected to creative play. This third piece is the effort-driven reward circuit. This explains why playing with something physical feels so different from scrolling something digital. Okay. Neuroscientist Kelly Lambert studies what she calls the effort-driven reward circuit. It's a network connecting movement with emotion, with thinking. And her research suggests that when an action requires real physical effort and produces a tangible result, first, hands doing something. Then second, a problem being solved. And then third, the result, an object coming together. That effort-driven reward circuit lights up and releases dopamine and serotonin in a way that passive activities like scrolling on your phone simply cannot do. So I want you to think of it this way. You have two chemicals, and the first one is dopamine, and that is the pursuit chemical. It's what gets you motivated to sit down and start that next row of stitches or pick up that sandpaper or paintbrush in the first place. And then the second chemical is oxytocin, and it is the arrival chemical. It's what lets you actually feel calmer and more settled once whatever you're working with is sitting in your hands. On a screen while you're scrolling, you get plenty of dopamine, the notifications, the likes, the next piece of content or reel. Researchers describe social media's reward pattern a variable reward loop. It's unpredictable, which is exactly what makes it so hard to put down because you rarely get to arrival, that feeling of, I'm finished. Look at this thing I've done, because nothing is ever finished when you're scrolling, right? There's no object to hold at the end. There's no end. There's just what's next. That loop just resets and asks for one more scroll, one more video, one more piece of content, just one more. With a physical craft, you get both halves. You get the pursuit, and then you get a real arrival, an actual object that your brain treats as evidence, good or bad, that you get a result. This is evidence that you started something and that you created something, a feeling of doing and a feeling of having accomplished something. And you get the quality dopamine and oxytocin chemicals, even if you're not a Rembrandt or a Picasso with your creative talent. So you don't have to be good at whatever you're doing, okay? And your brain, remember, loves the textures, the motions, the solutions. Again, good or bad, it just loves it. And that's a fundamentally different experience than scrolling or playing a game on your phone, because your brain craves the textures and the friction and the motion that your fingertips are feeling. Now, you might be thinking, oh, that's all fine and good, Beth, but I'm not really sure how I can add creative play to my busy day because I'm a busy person. No worries. I've got you covered. Here's what I want you to actually do with all of this fabulous information. First, don't worry. You don't need to have a big project or 45 minutes of time to be creative every day. You can start to see creative benefits in tactile creativity in as little as 5 minutes a day. And if you could do 30 minutes a day, wow, that would be amazing. And if you know me, you know I love a good list. So I have a list for you of 7 ways to play with creativity using your hands. And you can start doing this today. So here's the first one. Number 1, paint on a rock. So here's no plan, no pressure. I just want you to have fun. Find some rocks. They're everywhere. And then just get a brush and some paint and paint on the rock for just 5 minutes if that's all you've got. And if you don't want the mess of getting out the paintbrushes and then you got to clean up, just get yourself some markers that are made for drawing on rocks. I'll have some marker links so that you can hop on Amazon and grab them, or go to your favorite hobby store and get some of these markers. Look in the show notes. Number 2, pick up a crochet hook or a pair of needles and set a time limit for 15 to 30 minutes. You choose. Knit or crochet something until the timer rings. Just knit some easy rows or do a simple chain stitch. And if you've never done any crocheting before, you can learn how to do a chain stitch in 5 minutes. It doesn't take long and it's not hard to remember. So this is something that you can just do by setting a timer, because you don't have to have a project. You don't have to be making a sweater or a blanket. Just do some stuff. The act of your hands with the needles or the crochet hook against the yarn is going to benefit your brain. You're going to be getting that motion, that repetitive motion, and the friction from the yarn. So I want you to do this until the timer rings, and then, see how you feel. And if you're kind of in a groove, feel free to keep on going. Just keep on keeping on. Number 3, get some clay that just needs to air dry. That's easy to find, again, on Amazon or your favorite hobby store. And I want you to take that clay and I want you to just roll a few clay spheres between your hands or make some logs that you roll out. And if you want to take some extra time, oh, make a snowman or be adventuresome and let your imagination loose and create some fruit or some animals or whatever. And remember this, the rolling, the pinching, the molding motion of clay between your fingers and your thumb. That's the point, not the finished piece, not the finished piece. Number 4, just color. Get yourself a coloring book and some old school crayons or colored pencils and just color. Ah, so relaxing. You will be amazed how much fun you have. Number 5, knead a small batch of dough. Or honestly, if you're thinking, I don't bake, Beth, just get yourself a big old chunk of Play-Doh. And for 5 minutes, knead your dough or pretend to knead your dough if you're using Play-Doh and give your hands something real to push against. That is going to be that friction and that repetitive movement that's going to be so good for your brain. Number 6, sand something by hand. This can be an old picture frame, a scrap of wood, a piece of furniture. And that back and forth rhythmic motion and the resistance of that sandpaper against whatever you're sanding, that's going to do the actual work for your brain. Don't have any sandpaper or something to sand? Again, go to the craft store, get on Amazon, and you can find a craft kit that includes sanding. Just search for it. Number 7, fold something by hand. And the key here is I want you to slow down your motions while you're doing it. So this could be laundry, fold towels, or whatever it is you need to fold, but do it slowly. Or you can fold a paper airplane or a paper hat. Remember doing those when we were kids? Or just make an old-fashioned fan by making that accordion fold, back and forth and back and forth. And I want you to notice and feel the texture of whatever you're folding. That nubby feeling of towels as you're folding, the friction of paper against your fingertips while you're making your paper airplane. Don't rush to get the project done. And don't fret, my friend, if you can't quite remember how you used to fold those paper airplanes when you were a kid. And if you want to get really fancy, you can get yourself a book on origami and learn how to fold some really fun, whimsical paper animals. So there you go. That's a list of 7 ideas. Pick one, try one, or choose your own idea. But do something today. And then try another tomorrow or keep up the same pattern of something that you really enjoy doing. And then keep that practice of doing something creative with your hands. Do it for a whole week and then see how you feel. And then don't stop. Keep creating. If you've already been doing something creative, hooray, go you. Keep doing it. And I want you to be mindful of the good you are doing. Remember all the science we've talked about so you'll know when you're creating. It will make it easier for you to stay consistent because you're going to realize the importance of giving yourself permission to play because you understand the brain power and clarity and calm that you're creating because you're creating. Does that make sense? Now let's pause for a moment to hear a quick word from our sponsor, and that would be me. If this episode is making you excited about your own creativity, you should create today more often. So come and continue to understand the benefits of play by going forwards with your creativity. This can be done by joining my creative clubhouse that I have just started. I've made it really simple. Try it out for a month for just $1. And after that, the Going FourWords Clubhouse is just $9 each month. It's an easy, no stress way to creatively play as much as you want when you want. You're going to have access to my Beth's Best Books book club. You're going to also be able to play inside the recipe exchange. And this is where I encourage you to play with your food. And you can also join in the creative challenges that are always available. And for my hardcore gamers, there will be some fun prizes at the end of each of these quarterly challenges. It's just $1 to start. So come and give it a try. There's a link in the show notes to join in the creative fun. Or you can go to www.bdi-create.today and get all the information. So keep going forwards with your creativity, my friend. Come and create today with me. So here's what I want to leave with you today. When you give yourself permission to create, you're not just making stuff. You're creating peace. You are lowering anxiety. You're opening a door to more happiness in your life. Every rock you paint, every row you crochet, every loaf of bread you knead, whatever it is you are doing, that's your hands turning on a real circuit in your brain that tells your nervous system you are safe, you are capable, and you are here in this moment. And that same amount of time spent scrolling on your phone, remember, it's just creating fog. Making things with your hands is creating clarity and focus. The creativity we discussed today isn't about being productive or being perfect or creating something amazing for someone or for a deadline. This kind of hands-on creative play is all about giving yourself time to just do something you can actually feel with your hands, just playing. And remember, your hands were built to help you make sense in this world, to help you find peace during chaos. So what will you and your hands create today? It's important to give yourself permission to color or paint or bake or sand something. And when you take time to play, it's going to help you stay creative, my friend.